So we're talking about stages of change. When I
Okay,
proposed
thank
this,
you so much. Because over here it's evening and your time it's morning time. So we have to
hmm
say both of them, good
hmm
morning and good evening,
good
both.
evening.
So the thing is that, yeah, good evening and good morning to you as well. And today we have a very lovely guest, Shifron, and we did another session last time, and that was amazing session.
Mhm.
From behavior, we means that we a lot of people all the time talk about you should change yourself, and they don't give you the tool how to change yourself. I mean, first, people don't understand what is the difference between behavior and misbehavior, or you could say good behavior and bad behavior. So okay, if somebody said that you need to change yourself, so you need to explain what is a bad behavior or what is not age appropriate behavior. If we talk about the child, and if we talk about the adult, that what is the behavior which is not socially acceptable behavior. If I'm not wrong, and you would, why not talk about what tools we can give to these people to change themselves, to realize, to analyze themselves, and to to start the tool which is important for self love as well. Remember, we talk about self love last time. So I think we are giving them some other important discussion to how to self love themselves, and how to change themselves actually. So thank you so much for giving us time, and let's start our discussion. So yes.
Okay. Um, when I think about change, I really go back to my background in substance abuse recovery. And that's where I saw transformative change. People have had to take control of their urges and how they meet their needs because their behavior has become problematic. They welcome substance into their life, and
Mm-hmm.
what came in there is broken families, trouble with law enforcement. Their freedom has been taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Detrimental. Just like things have been completely ruined, and they can't see their way out of their behavior. It has become a problem. But
Yeah.
less dramatic in my process, where I work with basically worried well people, functional people. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they don't particularly know that the situation is really about them, that it's about their behavior and their perceptions. Typically, they come to therapy saying, well, how can I change my husband? Or how can I change my children? Or how can I change my job? And so sometimes I tell people, I would love to hear about your spouse or your children or your boss, but you are my client. So let's talk about the behaviors that may contribute to the results you're getting. And sometimes they're taken aback because they're like, well, I'm here to get help to cope with these things. So I
Mm-hmm.
always say the first step to change is really realizing that the problem may be your behaviors or you accepting negative behaviors from other people. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
we have to do that self-evaluation to first acknowledge. And that can be the hardest part for people because their egos are all wrapped up,
Mm-hmm.
in this identity of maybe being a martyr or being a pleaser or a giver, and not really acknowledging how they're being compliant or
Mm-hmm.
accepting these behaviors. So what about you? What do you see in your practice with people and change?
Okay, let me give you the perspective from, maybe you could say, from where we belong, or from the side of where I am. The thing is
Mm-hmm.
that the form of parenting we are going toward that thing. The thing is that as a parent, you have to accept everything what is coming from your child. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if they are doing bad, if they are doing good. Let me give you example. For example, point. So when we talk about creating healthy boundaries among each other and telling your child this is wrong, this is right. Okay, when a child get adult, definitely if you start telling that child hitting is bad in the classroom because
Mm-hmm.
that behavior was reinforced during the childhood. Maybe you say that child hit you, it's the child can do some other form of a fine motor activity as well. The child can do some other kind of action as well. The child can do high five as well. I mean, the child
Yes.
can do shake hand. The child can do bye bye. And I have one case example as well, in which the child was with the child was with disability. The child was having cerebral palsy. So the mother was, and the therapist, everybody was working on that child. And one day the therapist, the therapist was very busy in something, and the mother called the therapist, and she was so happy. The therapist asked what happened. She was so happy that the child hit me today, and the child hit me in front of everyone. So she was not getting the idea when the child is going to grown up.
Mhm.
At that age of life, it is very difficult to ask them to not to hit you, because they will be very much strength, and you cannot hire someone to stop these people, and you cannot hire someone to do stop this behavior. So from here, I think it's so much clear that the thing that you don't like as an adult, you should not feed these things in your children as well. You should not
Mhm.
allow your child, even you should not hit your child as well, and you should not allow your child to hit you as well, because one day when they will grow up, the thing which was appropriate at younger age would be I give a very elaborative form that how these things are, how uh, bad behavior, you could say, mismanaged behavior is feeding in the personalities. And and the thing is that you assume that your child is going to change from your verbal instruction only. Just don't stop hating, don't hit other people. So I think you need to go back to that personality from where you started being
Mhm.
constructed, that hitting personality. So this is my point.
Hello?
Okay.
Okay.
I, okay. Okay. Now let me ask a question, because before that you asked a question from me, and I was quiet, that I thought that you want to add something in that. Okay, you talk
Mhm.
about the family, or you could talk about a person, and I have seen that in my practice as well, that the parents, or you would say the client, or the, if it is about a lady, a woman who's saying that, who's complaining about her husband attitude. So
Mhm.
what or the husband is not helping him. Let me give you an example. A lot of families are moving from our country to your country. Let's say this is an example. And in our country, male are not usually helping female to brought up their children. I mean, they a lot of, I'm not saying everybody same, but this is a general idea that they're not,
Yeah.
not doing that. Maybe a lot of people are not doing it at your country as well, in your area as well.
Mhm.
So whenever they go abroad, the woman have to earn. So when she is into after that they can enjoy something else, and they can do something else. But whenever they go to your side of the world, then they have to manage the house, then they have to manage the children, then they have to manage themselves as well, then they have to earn as well. So a lot of time they're complaining, our husband is not helping us, our husband are not, even sometimes these are very educated people. I mean, you could say they're calling them some form of modern, that they're very modern, but behind the scene, a lot of mothers are doing that, and maybe I think at that time they have to take some the problem is maybe everywhere is the same, but the point is how they are going to change themselves so that they should not take these kind of things from other people, or they should not allow other people to I mean, so that they create a positive environment. Actually, that is a point, because the tussle is, if it is about husband and wife, then it is going to affect children directly. So I think if they come to some point and they discuss these things, maybe they start changing each other, that definitely they will give a very positive home to their family as in their
So I missed a lot of what you're saying, but I caught how I think the gist. And of course, you can tell me if I'm going to be redundant in what you covered. But I think in
Okay.
situations like the example you gave of a family coming over to another and it's another culture and discovering that there are different needs in this different environment.
Yeah.
Flexibility is key, right? So it
Yeah.
would be ideal if both those adults turn to each other and say, as a family unit, we're facing a cultural shift and we'll need to adapt new techniques to survive and be successful in this new environment. So it can't necessarily be so much, this is my job as the husband, this is my job as the wife, because now we don't know everything we need to know to be successful in this new culture, and we have to come together and become a team and maybe not be so attached to roles that make us comfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable for a while until we can run our home like a well-oiled machine. So that leads me to my belief that our behaviors are based on needs, and those needs
Yeah.
are what we're meeting when we get into a pattern of behavior, right? And so when you're looking for change, you have to define those new needs and you have to contend with all those behaviors that you collected up. Some of them were survival techniques, and some of them were just, something you observed. But now, when a new situation faces you, do you have the wherewithal to change and to adapt that change and to not really feel guilty or negatively about evolving? Because I think when we talked about this topic, you talked about the word transform. And, change can be transformative. You can leave an old idea to adapt to a new idea and really respect yourself for that transition you made. There's a happy medium. And that can be hard for a lot of people to accept. I see a lot of first generation clients, and they feel caught in the middle. Their parents still have traditional ideas, even though they sacrificed a lot for their children to come to a Western culture. And it's difficult for them to identify as Americans and also with their homeland. So that's also something they have to change as they try to reconnect with their parent and how they want to live kind of a blended culture life. Does that make sense? Did I come through okay? Can you hear me? I can hear you now. Hi.
Find it difficult to identify to that culture, and they get into cultural shock, and that is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And people have to work along, and sometimes there are people who can digest that thing, but a lot of people find it difficult to digest that behavior. Sometimes they become too much extremist, sometimes they become, sometimes they start doing what they were not doing. For example, they would go to their native culture, they will try to take bond from that thing, and they will go to only those places where they find their own people. People want to think in black and white. They don't
Mm-hmm.
understand, and they see the gray area, that there is gray area, and you have to understand that thing. And I think before going to that places, they should understand that culture. They should read that culture. Those things. Okay. So we are back now. So okay, let me
Okay.
ask a question from you. In start, you were talking about drug abuse because I think addiction is a personality, and you could say agree to that aspect as well, that addiction is a kind of personality, same like other personality we like aggressive aggression is a personality. So if a mother or a teacher or indirectly get the idea that he need to change himself as well.
Okay. So I think the question was, uh, how do people come to know they need to change in the substance abuse situation or example? Am I correct? Yeah. Many times, their life has become too uncomfortable. Their freedom has been
I'm
taken
asking
away.
that.
Uh-huh. Their credibility has been questioned, so they'll find that they have no credibility in their circles. Their parents don't trust them. They've lost connection with their children. Um, they essentially become isolated, and all the people close to them are other people that are doing the same thing. So when their life, as we say, as your life become unmanageable, that's when you know that you need to change. And typically they are forced into this change because it's like
Mm-hmm.
either, being incarcerated or get out of this behavior. For some people, having that black and white line is enough to initiate that change. For other people, they will try and circumvent. Maybe I can keep scamming. Maybe I can keep getting around it. So the percentage of people that actually make it to sobriety is low because it's so difficult, and the systems we have here in America are not necessarily so supportive. We're trying, but it's not black and white. As we say, it's very, very gray.
Yeah.
So the clients that I used to work with were really the worst of the worst. They had been in the criminal justice system for most of their life, and it was a system
Mm-hmm.
called drug court, and we were giving them one last chance to find what we call
Mm-hmm.
pro-social behavior, meaning along with society, respectable, earning, holding some level of respect in society and functionality. So we would start with first changing their environment. We say people, places, and things. That's what needs to be changed to quit the habit of substance use, because it's not just using the substance, it's an entire lifestyle. It's the people you're with, it's the places you go, it's the things you do that support that behavior. So essentially, we're taking this person, we're scooping them up out of their addiction environment and putting them into an environment that is counter to that, which is a culture shock. They're transplanted. So it could be a
Yeah.
halfway house, it could be like a jail, whatever. But we take out that environment and then we start, you know, supporting them medically, because now the substance is absent from their body and they're having all these sensations that they were running from. Usually this is when their co-occurring mental health issues start to emerge. Bipolar disorder, manic depression, schizophrenia, whatever they were really treating with that substance is now becoming the main problem. So we intervene,
Mm-hmm.
medication, therapy. As they gain
Mm-hmm.
confidence, self-esteem, credibility, they start to find themselves and start asking questions. And then we deal with the traumas. More often than not, they
Mm-hmm.
experienced the trauma or more when they were very young and impressionable, which kind of led them to solve their problems with using the substance because that's what was readily available to them. We work through trauma, and then they start making more pro-social decisions. I have been blessed enough to watch people come from whether they're living on the streets to having respectable jobs, reconnecting with their family and having a sense of pride, so much so that they don't even identify with their behavior when they were using. The program I worked in was about a year long, and the
Mm-hmm.
most successful clients would sometimes watch the new applicants come in, and they would be like just off drugs and a mess, and just really suffering. And they would say to me, Shafan, you're taking in these people that are very chaotic. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say, that was you a year ago. Do
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
recognize
exactly.
yourself? Yeah, it would be so impressive. But I just think the human spirit is amazing, that you have the ability to turn everything around. Not everyone makes it, but those that really get it, that really pursue it and don't become too discouraged, can really make it. Everyone's capable.
Yeah, and the thing is that there, while working with you or while working in that program, their self-image was so different from the one they have that they even did not recognize that they were in that place someday as well. But I mean, if they see these people coming, I think it can give them some another perspective of working for this individual as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those people who are using drugs, they are actually in the phase of, you could say, they're actually avoiding a lot of things. It could be
Mm-hmm.
unemployment, it could be their trauma, like just like you said, that it could be any trauma of their past life, of their childhood, or maybe they're living in a live in trauma, like they are having some kind of home problems, and a lot of issue it could be there. Whenever people goes into these, in these rehabilitations and in the rehab center, and a lot of a lot of energy is put into these people, a lot of have the chance of relapse as well, because a lot of people did not maybe think of how to give them employment, because what was their employment? They was taking drug, and maybe if you were selling that drug as well. So what they're gonna do? They have same friend, they have same circle, they are going to
Yes.
same bar, or they're going to same social places
Mm-hmm.
as well. So I think we need to be prepared for these kind of question and these kind of situation as well, because these are the exact reason why these children or these adults or these I think that we have to give them socialization skill, how to
Yes.
generate their own resources, because these are the things that can give them life. You're taking something from a person who was the life of that person, and like you're saying that that person was not even able to understand that we were in that position someday as well. So do you think we should have these kind of problem, these kind of you could say programs, or what tools we can give to these youth? Because I think and there are a lot of researches, because everybody and a lot of people are involved in drugs because of so many problems. If you talk about children, whole week or their whole month, so they're
Mm-hmm.
not into getting some education, they're not into career anymore, because they have separate homes, or they are adopted, or you could say they don't they are single mother child or single parent. So do you think we should work on that, or what could we do about that? Because I think the show, we should now start talking about the tools and techniques to give to the society and work as a therapist as well, because it's our job, because I think it's our job to think about that aspect as well. What is your point about that?
I think that is really the most humane way to go about encouraging people to change their lifestyle, is by offering something in exchange. Because you can be very self-righteous and say, well, just stop. It's not about willpower. It's about exchanging those behaviors and having something else to meet those needs, and really understanding themselves, and why they have these responses. What's difficult in these systems to get support for them is that many times the powers that be, political, law enforcement, they don't have the patience to really let people navigate through the change, because there's lots of failures. You know, relapse is in the change cycle, because it is very
Yes.
difficult to long-term change your behavior. And so you can like invest in a client for a year or so, give them housing, medical attention, you know, reunite them with their families, and 2 years down the road they relapse, and then here comes the judgment. It's like, well, we gave you all this and you betrayed us by relapsing. What they don't understand is that it's so difficult to leave a behavior that has you felt worked for you and may feel better than anything else. Early
Yeah.
on in recovery, I teach my clients
And
habit.
they were reinforcing you as well.
Mm-hmm. Early on in recovery, I would teach my clients habit replacement. As they, you know, navigate through life, I would say, well, you can't have cocaine anymore, so what are you going to do to celebrate? And try and find something comparable or just as good as. And one client stopped me and he said, well, Shafan, nothing feels as good as cocaine. And he really had me there. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, let's mourn the loss of cocaine in your life, because it did meet a need. Let's be honest, you did it for years and years, and you did it
Yeah.
because it felt good.
Yeah.
And so now you can't ever have that
Mm-hmm.
again, or you will go to prison. So what's more important?
Mm-hmm.
And being that honest with them and saying, yes, I understand to some level why you did it, and you'll have to let that go. If they can be mature enough to depart from that and just like say, okay, well, I can't have cocaine, but I can get really into CrossFit, because getting fit makes me feel very good. Not as good as cocaine, but it makes me feel very good. Just that level of acceptance gives them the power to keep trying new things and to say goodbye forever to things that just really didn't serve them. Hopefully, systems that are supporting them can come to be more compassionate about just how hard it is to sustain a change that isn't like culturally, that isn't the cultural norm to you.
Mm-hmm. And you know the
Yeah.
thing is that when we talk about therapy, we are making them skillful to deal this situation. But when we talk about drug abuse, and maybe we talk about physical violence as well, because aggression is a personality too, and into sports as well. So for them, going to extreme sports stuff like that and getting the center of attention, there's a different kind of addiction. I think we should need to understand that addiction is not just drugs. Addiction is the
Yes.
fame. Addiction is a social media. Addiction is the attention we are getting from the people. So a time will come, because I have seen a lot of people. I have seen girls that in our area, in this country, for one some part of a time they were doing very well. Why they were doing? Because they were getting a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
Changes. So maybe they did not adapt it accordingly, or the time when her time left and other person time came, then she's more like to fighting with people, fighting on media. Why are you talking about me? That's because you're not supporting me, and this person.
Yeah.
So it's more like a war, and I can see that that person is struggling emotionally. And there are a lot of people who are struggling emotionally. So it's kind of fame that people are watching you and you are in the limelight. Same happened with social media people. Same happened with personalities who are into the limelight. And these are of help. I think from there we can give them some kind of, a goal to them as well. So do you think that, or what would you do if you would be into, if somebody asks you that you have to rehabilitate somebody who go outside, or give some alternative to that rehabilitation method?
So you're asking me about what is success in this concept? What is the goal? Yes.
I'm saying, what would you do? Because I told you, what could I do? What could we do? We could give them some goal, and we could put them into some program that go and find some new people and help them to rehabilitate the way we did with them, or the way you did do with that people. So what would be your strategy? Because that I told you that strategy. It's not that I generated that strategy, but I can think of that. So what could you think of that? That these people find some meaning in their life and they start enjoying their life, and they can have something for themselves as well, so that they can be a part of community, and they actually gain some respect and some confidence. Because when those who are using drug, they don't have self-respect and they don't have the confidence to, that's why they don't go to people, that's why they don't want to meet other people. So what would you do?
This reminds me of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and
Yeah.
it's a theory, but I really think that it has a lot of validity. I would teach my clients first understand their needs, right? Functionality, and then all the other things that are valid, right? And then help them plug and play and prioritize those needs. For some people, esteem needs are above, like love and belonging. It's really very personal. But when they understand the content and order of their needs, then the two of us can build the unique treatment plan that makes sense for them. For some people, it's like, I always wanted to have an office job. And other people, like, I always wanted to be married. We can't have the cookie cutter. Yeah. So first, individually finding out what they deem as success. And I say, what's your wildest dreams, right? And really respect their responses, because as an educated person, my wildest dreams are different than someone who has come from something else, right? So if their wildest dream is, I just want to have an office job, I say, yay, let's do it, let's go, and then really celebrate them as they move along. So yeah, I guess my answer is treat them with respect as an individual, elevate them, right? And say, oh no, just because you did this thing in your past doesn't mean that it defines you forever and ever. And I believe in you through this change, and the system believes in you. And I know that you can make good. And sometimes I have been the one person in their life to say that they're worthwhile. And I say, can you partner with me? And we both make these dreams into a reality. It's really how motivated the person is. Motivational interviewing was a modality we used a great deal in the criminal justice system, because it empowered the individual over ordering them to do so. So that's my answer.
Okay. So, let's talk about individual differences, because whenever we are working with people, either it's our client, if they're coming from violence family, or it's about the abuse, it could be physical abuse. It's not just about substance, it could be form of abuse, because you know that whenever we talk about these things work in cycle. The cycle of abuse, you also know that it's not just about drug abuse, there's another cycle of abuse as well. So there will be always differences, and things would be different for us, and then maybe this method would be different for us as well. So if we talk about drugs, and you could say it could be drug, it could be drinking problem, another problem as well. So the time when they are suppose a person get treatment, and the person's rehabilitation, and everything went so well, but again some incident happened with that person. It could be anything, because I'm talking, because it's not just we are talking to each other. A lot of people would listen to this and they would get some idea what they need to do if such situation happen. That's the reason, I think that is the main reason why we are discussing these things. So if that person get into that drug again, so how much time, or how they're going to regain their confidence, the love they had, or what are you going to do with that person? What would be your strategy for that person?
First, explain that sobriety is ongoing throughout their entire life. And just because you failed now doesn't mean you can't pick up and sustain where you were. You start over. You reevaluate your support system. You reevaluate your decision making. many times relapse happens in the mind before they act it out in the body, right? So it could be months before they actually take that drink when they're thinking, maybe this isn't working. Maybe I feel defeated. Maybe, or they're mixing in with old friends and this behavior is in their face again. So we pinpoint where exactly this relapse started, the idea started, and how they started, how their behavior walked them to actually physically, using again. And helping them understand that it's not magic, right? You walked yourself to this behavior and you returned for a reason. So let's talk about those reasons. You stopped going to your community, you stopped meeting, you stopped doing your coping skills, you stopped, the things that were working for you because you probably felt cocky and confident, say, I don't need those things anymore. I'm fine. But it's not accepting that these are behaviors you have to adapt and adjust for the rest of your life. If the same AA meeting isn't working for you, you can go to another, right, and refresh that familiarity with the material and find new people. Sometimes they may need to start mentoring to keep themselves accountable, to refresh themselves on those skills. And helping other people really is a mark of really having healed, because now you want to give away what you have. Yeah. So teaching them how to re-engage with the material, making it fresh, making it new, and then saying, look, nobody's here to wag their finger at you for relapsing. You're a human being, right? Accept what you did, and then be pointed in moving forward and using that experience forward. It's really about how you use your failures. It should teach you something. Yeah.
And I think if we talk about them, they always have a lot of guilt because maybe internally they know that they don't want to use the drugs because they know that they're killing themselves, and they're killing themselves silently, and actually they're suffering silently as well. So it's not just about a psychological aspect, because there's a physical aspect involved in that as well. And just like psychological recovery take a lot of time and take a lot of effort, same way this recovery will take a lot of time, it take a lot of effort as well. So there is no shame, we would say, in taking second help or coming again to you and rebuilding themselves. Just like whenever we give somebody or something to work along or give some goal, because those people I don't think so that they have any kind of goal, because the person, like you mentioned in your when we started that discussion, that the person said that it feels so good to take some specific thing, and there's nothing more better than that. So that euphoria kind of, because you could feel that euphoria and that kind of happiness by helping someone, by seeing the happiness in the eyes of a child, because we're working with children and we get so happy, we feel so happy when they learn something new, and that make us happy, and that actually help us to put our trauma backside and work with them, and they're giving us the energy. So I think giving them a goal and giving them a life and mentoring is, I think, a very good idea to start with. Okay, I would like to ask you something else. That is also a form of behavior. Let's a little bit, because it's a general thing. We did not have specific thing that we will talk about this thing and we'll topic about that behavior. Let's talk about suicide ideation and suicide behavior, because sometimes people used to think that those people who are attempting suicide, maybe they are very brave. If you are saying that they're very afraid of they're doing that, and nobody is getting the idea as well. So from having suicide ideation to having that attempts, how we are going to change, how we are going to work with that client?
With suicidal behavior, my philosophy is that I think people saying that it's selfish and the shame that goes along with it, I don't think that's necessarily the right approach to it. I think suicide happens because that person has dealt with depression or this extreme disappointment for a long amount of time. They are in excruciating pain, and they've decided that they can't go forward with that pain, and they can't withstand any other future pain. So it's like they're like, I am at max capacity and nothing has helped, and I'm going to depart. So really, it's coming to them in this level of compassion. Like I tell my clients, if you're looking for me to say this magic phrase to stop you from killing yourself, that may not be a realistic expectation.
Yeah.
You have to decide to keep living, and you have to find what's most important about that. Like, so if it could be you're living because you got a new puppy, that's fine. Keep living. Great. But together we find something that makes sense to you. And then we start problem solving, building coping. If you need medication, let's get it. If you need a new community, let's teach you how to build it. If you need a faith structure, let's find one, really. Because it's all about the person finding the meaning and the wherewithal and the courage to keep withstanding life's challenges, because life is just going to keep having challenges. So it's
Mm-hmm.
about building their resilience
Mm-hmm.
and having them be on board to continue living life. Yeah.
We talk about talking with these people, with these clients, so they have this idea that we even sometimes, they try to do the same act and the same technique they're applying with their family. Sometimes they're just attention seeking behavior, sometimes they're not attention seeking behavior, because what I believe is, if somebody is trying to tell you something, it means that person is feeling that thing. I mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
the way the child or the person is communicating to you, maybe sometimes it would look like dramatic, it could
Yeah.
look like attention seeking, but if they are telling, they're actually thinking about that, because a lot of time when these individuals say same thing to their family, then their family is not taking them serious. And you might have idea that a lot of people have attempted suicide, and now family is mourning on them, because
Mm-hmm.
that is the reason why we need to talk about more about mental health problem, because the problem is that they look so happy, they look so normal to you.
Yes.
They're going to university, they're going to offices, they're doing everything. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a girl, there was a film actress, and she attempted suicide, and they were showing her whole documentary, and they show her documentary time to time what she was doing. So her sister was coming from outside, and that was from that lady was from in Dubai. There she did that. So she came to, because her sister
I can't hear you, so I'm waiting until I can hear your responses. I didn't hear what you were saying, but in reference to you talking about the families not being receptive to a member saying I that they're suicidal, I think that response is definitely fear based. You don't want to believe that your loved one is that upset, and you may not have like the
Mm-hmm.
education, and then I think for some parents also, when they hear that their child is depressed, they can't separate that from them being responsible for it. So it's like, what do you mean you're depressed? I gave you everything, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like, okay, mom and dad, you need to not center yourself in your child's experience. You can give them everything, but they're having a separate human experience than you are. And there are lots of other factors, not just the environment they grew up in. There's a whole, internal life that they are experiencing outside of you. And that
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they're
Mm-hmm.
communicating that they don't want to be here anymore, they're being very
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. And teaching parents how
Mm-hmm.
to respect that vulnerability is imperative,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, that's where I would start with parents that are like, oh, it's just attention seeking. And so I explain what attention seeking actually looks like, because like people that are going to do it, they don't say very much about it. You
Mm-hmm.
usually find them, but like the attention seeking is giving a lot of warnings, right? That's when you intervene and you show that you care. Not that you can be controlled, but you're just like, look, you matter to us and your experience matters to us. And we want to work with you in finding something better. I wasn't I wasn't able to hear any of that, and I'm so sorry. Hello? Well, I know we have to finish up pretty soon, but before we close up, I'd just like to briefly go over the cycle of change just for educational reasons for anyone who's watching and doesn't necessarily know what we mean by that. So, the first stage in change is pre-contemplation. This is when there's really no intervention. You're just getting the idea that there might need to be change. The next is contemplation, is when you're really thinking about what it might look like to change. You've figured out that it's you and your actions, and you're starting to imagine that there can be a better way to go about meeting your needs and interfacing with people. And then there's preparation. How do I do that? Let me find a way to change. It could be faith-based, it could be mental health-based, it could be changing your location and finding different, social outlets, but you're in that preparation. And then there's action. You take action. You go to that therapist, you go to that religious institution, and you invest your time in it. And then the change starts to happen, and then there's the maintenance, right? You have to stay out of those temptation circles. You have to keep incorporating that change. You have to keep going to the gym, keep eating vegetables, whatever the change is. And then for some people, there's relapse, because we're creatures of habit, and we meet challenges and we change ourselves, we lose our confidence, and we'll go back to those old behaviors that seem to have worked before. But as long as you get back into contemplation and through the cycle again, relapse may or may not be the constant repeat, but you will keep going to contemplating, to preparation, to action, to maintenance as you mature in this changed identity. So that's the cycle of change. And so I often remind my clients of that when we are in therapy and they're feeling discouraged and they're saying, I don't know if this is working, but I walk them through that, and they are able to find themselves in that cycle, and they feel encouraged because they have that terminology to depend on, and they know how to move through the cycles now and feel confident that they're going to reach the maintenance stage. Dr. Khan, it was a pleasure talking with you. I have to go. I have an 11 o'clock client, but I love these talks, and I hope we continue. Goodbye now.